Alright, everybody. As all of you know, Ron DeSantis, the, I guess, top potential candidate that could potentially beat Trump. He's not going to, but, you know, he's like the second runner-up. Is the governor of Florida, and he has been working long and hard at making Florida as bad as he can possibly make it, basically doing everything he can to attack gay people and trans people, and basically all LGBT groups across the board. He has fought to ban anything that he calls critical race theory, which is literally just any literature or teaching that teaches actually accurate American history about slavery and discrimination of non-white people. Really fucked up stuff that he's been up to in my lovely home state of Florida. Not a big fan of it. Not a big fan. However, his history is a lot darker than just, like, being your average demonic Republican who is pushing for, you know, conservative values and conservative policies. He actually has, like, a truly evil and demonic backstory that is, like, something out of a supervillain comic book, like, backstory. Like, it really is comical. You see, Ron DeSantis oversaw interrogations at Guantanamo Bay. Now, a lot of you guys who aren't American may not know what Guantanamo Bay is. The Guantanamo Bay detention camp is a United States military prison within Guantanamo Bay Naval Base, also referred to as Gitmo, on the coast of Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. This basically means it is off of American soil. It is what is called an American black site. It basically means that the laws of American engagement when it comes to holding prisoners and whatnot do not apply due to legal loopholes. This is what a black site is. It's where American officials and American military do things that are illegal for them to do in America off American soil. Of the 780 people detained there since January 2002, when the military prison first opened after the September 11th attacks, 741 have been transferred elsewhere, 30 remain there, and 9 have died while in custody. The camp was established by U.S. President George W. Bush's administration in 2002 during the War on Terror, following the September 11, 2001 attacks. Indefinite detention without trial led to the operations of this camp to be considered a major breach of human rights by Amnesty International, and a violation of the Due Process Clause of the 5th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, by the Center of Constitutional Rights. Bush's successor, U.S. President Barack Obama, promised that he would close the camp, but met strong bipartisan opposition from the U.S. Congress, which passed laws to prohibit detainees from Guantanamo being transferred to the United States for any reason, including imprisonment or medical care, which was especially needed. During President Obama's administration, the number of inmates was reduced from about 250 to 41. In January 2018, even U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to keep the detention camp open indefinitely. Of course he did. In May 2018, the Trump administration repatriated a prisoner to Saudi Arabia. At least they did that. Even they did that. In early February 2021, U.S. President Joe Biden declared his intention to shut down the facility before he leaves office, though critics have noted that the Biden administration has taken few steps in the direction of closure. Instead, the Department of Defense has continued several $1 million of expansions to military commissions and other Guantanamo Bay facilities, including a second courtroom. The Biden administration has released 10 detainees from Guantanamo. Now, as you can imagine, this site has been under a lot of scrutiny because the shit that goes down there is very shady. One of the things they do there is torture. For a very long time after 9/11, it was an actual political debate in this country as to whether or not torturing the suspected terrorists who had no trial and no due process in their detainment was ethical or not. They were doing a lot of forms of torture in Gitmo, and are doing a lot of forms of torture in Gitmo. One of the most notorious is waterboarding, where you take a dishcloth, you strap someone to a table, tilt them like at an angle so that their head is pointing towards the ground a little bit, but they're like mostly horizontal. You basically wrap that washcloth over their head so it is like nice and tight around there, and you pour water over their face so that the washcloth gets soaking wet and like sticks to your face, like it's like shrink wraps to your face, and the water gets into your nose and into your mouth, and it's basically drowning. It basically feels like you're drowning. It is insanely bad torture. A lot of conservative figures have actually, to try to make a statement about how it's not that bad, did it on live television and couldn't handle a few seconds of it. There are a lot of viral clips of Republican and conservative figures, like, trying it to say, oh, look, it's not that bad, it's not that inhumane, and then literally not being able to take it for more than 2 seconds. Uncle Dingler just said, if you don't know anything about it, waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay actually sounds like a good time. Basically, Ron DeSantis' old job was to oversee that torture, and Guantanamo inmates have testified that he would literally maniacally laugh as they were being tortured. With that said, he was questioned about this by a reporter recently, and his reaction to being questioned was not good. It was not good at all. Ron DeSantis blows up at reporter over question about Guantanamo Bay prisoner claims. Florida governor has faced increased media scrutiny as he readies 2024 campaign. Ron DeSantis angrily chastised a reporter on Thursday as he spoke in Jerusalem and denied that he had been present for forced feedings during his service at the U.S. military prison at Guantanamo Bay. For those that don't know, one of the things that he was accused of was being sort of overseer of the forced feedings they would do. The prisoners would try to starve themselves to death to try to end the torture and the suffering, and so they would be force-fed with funnels, and they would, like, force the food down their throat to force them to be alive, you know, to force them to continue to have food in them. They wouldn't let them starve themselves to death. So DeSantis' job was to oversee the shoving of food down their throat. Was one of his jobs. The moment occurred as Mr. DeSantis gave a press conference at the Museum of Tolerance, a cultural center in the Israeli territory of West Jerusalem. Wow. That's all I can say to that. Wow. His visit to the Middle East comes as the Florida governor is thought to be preparing a bid for the Republican nomination against Donald Trump and others in 2024. At the press conference, Mr. DeSantis was questioned about claims from a former Guantanamo detainee who was held without being charged for more than a decade at the notorious military prison, accused him of being present for episodes where he was force-fed by guards to break a hunger strike. The Mansour Adaifi, a Yemeni citizen who was held for 14 years, at Gitmo, told The Independent in March that he was brutally force-fed by camp staff during a hunger strike in 2006, and that Mr. DeSantis was present for at least one of those sessions. Force-feeding is designed as torture by the United Nations. Sorry, not designed. I always misread designated as designed. I love that for me. DeSantis, oh yeah, here's the tweet, and of course it's posted by Ian Miles Chong, and it's captioned, DeSantis wrecks a journalist when the hack starts citing claims made by Guantanamo Bay terrorists.
Governor, during your time at Guantanamo, did you witness any incident?
By the way, Ian Miles Chong is a swatter who ended up getting a dog killed.
Governor, during your time at Guantanamo, did you witness...
Remember, guys, they absolutely know that they are fighting and supporting, or fighting for and supporting demons who only want to maximize death and suffering. It is that simple. It is not gray. It is simply that black and white. This man has spent his entire career wishing he had a jawline like Zan. Thank you, Heavy Gretel. I really appreciate that. Yeah, these people are pure evil. I have absolutely no respect for them. And I can't tell you how glad I am that Ron DeSantis is going to get cooked by Donald Trump in the Republican primary. I am so excited to see his absolute crushing defeat